That was not the month I requested. Nobody told me that we had no grass. Nobody told me that we'd end the bottom of the table. And nobody told me that we would lose lovely Dom Hyam to pay some bills. So, it's not been great. It's been a while since my last one of these, mainly because I've not been to any games. We haven't had a pitch to play on, and it's been a bit of a nightmare month on many scales. I'm going to do this one slightly differently. Normally what happens is I prepare for these quite a ludicrous amount. I broadly script what I want to say and try and deliver it. Not so much this week because I haven't had time, but I do have some things that I want to talk about. Dom Hyam leaving, is a big part of what we've done over the last few years. We need to say something, and we need to give him his dues, and also understand just what that will mean for our team moving forwards. And on that note, want to talk a little bit about the relationships between the players and how they interact with each other on the pitch, because that already has changed quite significantly from what we saw on our dream team last season, where we had an idea of what our number 1 11 was versus this season. We'll talk a little bit about Preston, just about how we got on there, and how I don't necessarily think that we're doomed just yet. Also, we'll take a little look towards the upcoming month and the stresses that we have and the pressure that we have to somehow pick up some wins. So first up, Dom Hyam, wonderful, metronomic, under the radar Dom Hyam. I don't think anybody really expected that. I don't think anybody really knew that there was a bid coming in for him. In our Neil Labty Show WhatsApp group, Paul texts through a really quite poignant message about him. And while I don't want to get too sentimental about him, I also think it kind of hit the nail on the head in the sense where he felt like our secret. He felt like we knew how good he was, but he was so low key that nobody else really had any interest in him for whatever reason. It was a shock when that came out that he wasn't going to be here anymore, because our focus all summer had been on keeping hold of the big three, which we kind of felt like we may have done. Now, I think what's happened here is that Mark has been given this option. And whether it's been driven by the fact that we've had to spend a load of money on a pitch that we really shouldn't have had to spend, he's probably been given the option, look, we need to get some money in. Who are we going to sell? He's probably looked at it and seen that Dom Hyam is the most dispensable of those four. Now that's an interesting call. It's an understandable call given the other players who we're talking about. You've got Gyökeres, who on his day can be one of the best strikers in the league, and as we saw against Sunderland, can save us. O'Hare, who we're looking at the moment, we are a very different team without his energy in that position. And then you've got Hyam, who again is just one of the best players in the league in his position. The counter argument there is you've also got Hyam, who is one of the best players in that position in the league. But I guess Robinson's thought process is we have Michael Rose, another player who's played plenty of times for us. Surely we just slot him back in. Simplistically speaking, yes, that could work. I don't think that's necessarily not going to work, but I don't want to dismiss just how good Dom Hyam has been for us. I'm okay with the idea that he's left. A job is a job, and it's fine. We all want to change jobs, and just because it's footballer, we think they need to be romantic about it. That's not a problem, and I don't think anybody bears him any ill will. One issue is that we have sold him to a rival. We all know the reason we sold him is because we needed the money, and that's business, and it's shit, but it's business. Who we sold him to, it's a problematic statement for me, specifically given what we did last year, who we were competing with last year, and the nature of Dom Hyam as a player. Now, if we can at least say that we believe that Dom Hyam is one of the best defenders in the league, which I firmly believe he is, selling him is bad enough. Selling him to somebody who I would class as a divisional rival doesn't make us look too good. I'm not pleased with that one bit. I don't think it's going to do us particularly any favours. I think it will make them stronger, and I think it makes us weaker. But never mind. Like, he's gone. We've got somebody. We've staved off, the bills for the next couple of months maybe. And I think it's important just to know what a tremendous player he has been for us. Most people are on that same page. There are a few who have kind of been a little bit dismissive of him, maybe to help them get over the fact that we've lost him, or maybe they just generally didn't think he was that good. I think it's very dismissive to underplay how good he has been. He's grown with the club and with the stature of where we sit in the divisions, and it's a shame that he's gone. So obviously we're bottom of the league at the moment. And that's a difficult thing to contend with. I thought we looked a very, very competent and actually superior team to most teams in the league last year. I thought everything that came together really, really worked well for us. So to see us not feeling quite as comfortable with our own play and performance is a little unfamiliar. But the main unfamiliarity is kind of, I think, on the pitch. The players who are now playing, because it's something that I think is really important and we don't take into account enough. And I have in my mind this idea of relationship reset, in the sense where we had the kind of the optimum team last season, the team that had basically strong relationships all around. There were certain areas where I felt that there was a real synergy. If I could use the word synergy in a presentation or a blog or whatever, never mind. But Darbo, Hamer and O'Hare, I think there's something between those three and the way that they interact. I think we do that very, very well. I think those two have a real familiarity there. And to be honest, the only place on the pitch where the team from last season didn't feel necessarily cohesive was the relationship between Godin and Gyökeres, who kind of were isolated in terms of what they give for the team. So Gyökeres is very much a one-man band a lot of the time. He tries to interact with players, but most of the time it's just him doing what he needs to by himself, and it works. Godin, on the other hand, does link up with his fellow players, but you don't see the link up with Gyökeres aside from the occasional header on flick, and actually obviously the goal against Fulham, which was absolutely brilliant. You don't see quite as much of a partnership as you kind of hope for. But that's not really the point. The point here is that what we had last season, I think, had grown into a real kind of strong group of players who, you look at it, Hyam, McFadzean work well together, Dabo, Hamer, Hyam, you felt comfortable at the right back. Same goes for the left hand side, and even between the keeper and his defenders. So for us to go from that, which is kind of the optimum team, to the new squad that we've got, you know, knowing that we've lost some players, we lost Clark Salter, we lost Maatson, and now we've lost Hyam. It left us with this really kind of unfamiliar lineup the other day, and there are many reasons why you can win football matches, and that's fine. You sometimes you just have to find a way, and you see it when maybe you've got a strong team and somebody gets injured and you have to drop someone in, and they fill in the gap really well. Certainly this season, and against Preston specifically, it just felt like we'd gone so far to a place where we were lacking the connections between the players. And not to get too graphical, the way I visualize this is kind of these interactions between each of the players and trying to look to see where there actually was familiarity. It did look very raw and very fresh, and both of the wings, without Darbo or without Maatson from last year, who for me were the optimum, you know, to replace him with Eccles, who doesn't necessarily look particularly comfortable where he is at the moment, particularly when you look at the players who he has around him, where you've got Rose, Allen and Waghorn, probably three players who aren't necessarily regulars in the position that they're currently being asked to play. Beardwell as well on the left hand side, individually looking much better than he did last season and looking like he suits the team better, but he's still learning and he's still new to the system and to our players, and there's just isn't that connection, it seems anyway to me, between the players around him, simply because it's that new. And you look, you've got Doyle again, great individual performance the other day, but it's so brand new. He's having to see how he can trust the players around him. Who can he give the ball to in difficult positions? Jamie Allen, you have to give the ball directly to him because his legs are so small. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is we have this optimum version of a team which really connected. There's been some stuff happened over the summer, which means that a few of those players are no longer there. We have to try and plug that gap. But my idea behind this is that core was really strong, and the thrust of what those guys were doing last season was really strong and actually superior to what a lot of the other teams are doing. So broadly for the season, if we can retain that, and hopefully over the course of time gradually they can infiltrate the trust that the other players have got, that is a workable dynamic, and it probably makes things more comfortable and familiar, and we can hopefully continue this transition from where we were last season to a better team this season. Obviously we've lost Hyam, so you have to kind of slot Rose into that position and hope that cumulative games, the effect of that will ultimately give him more familiarity with the players around him. And the same goes to the left hand side, which is actually probably the most tricky part of the pitch at the moment, because we simply have two players who are very new to the way that we do things. And the big problem, obviously, beyond that is the fact that we don't have Callum O'Hare right now. You've then got this absolutely critical player, probably more interactions with other players than anybody else on the pitch. And the decision on who plays there is a big one. We went for Waghorn the other night. We've got Casey Palmer, who's just come in. Again, it is brand new. And then you've got Allen, who knows the players around him. But is he the strongest in that position? Does he have the capabilities to do that work. So I don't necessarily think I have the answer right now in terms of who plays there, but what I do think we need to do is to start to build up that trust and familiarity and connection between the players. The aim for me would be to supplement that core with a few players rather than trying to rebuild it or shake it up. And I kind of get the feeling that the other night Robbins was trying to shake it up and trying to boost a deflated team, but to be honest, it was down to individual mistakes and certain individuals making more mistakes than others. So there could have been an argument to keep the team as it was, the one that had scored 4 goals in 2 away games, change the keeper who was having a crisis of confidence, whatever it is, rather than this broad punt of all these changes, all these players jumping into the team and it feeling very, very new. As I say, I don't think this is a one-size-fits-all, do this and this is how you win football games. Teams have to rebuild all the time and it's fine. I think for us though, we had something that was working and looked very, very formidable. Some bits of that have had to, for whatever reason, come out of the team. I would much rather retain that and slot the players in and try and bed them in and work at that than go all out. I don't think we have to dismantle the whole thing. I don't think we're there yet. The problem for Robbins is he doesn't have that luxury of time. The more we lose, the more we get cut adrift at the bottom of the table, and pressure that we have right now on us, even though we have the games in hand, is immense. And it wasn't our fault. You know, we could have won some games. That is our fault. But we have this chasm because of a pitch situation. Once again, it's something that's nothing to do with us. And yet, this has probably impacted us more than the fact that we weren't able to play at the Rico. We had to go elsewhere. At least then we were able to play games and we were able to build up a rhythm and a consistency of performance. It's been such a fragmented month. We haven't been able to get going. And each time we play a game, the notion that you then won't play the next game for another 10 days again. It's all come together and it's been a really difficult start to the season. Robbins was seemed a little bit furious the other day, or a little bit frustrated the other day about the kind of the nature of the support. I think maybe is a little bit harsh. I think we are good supporters, and actually think there was a decent level of noise and positive noise for the team the other day. But I do understand where he's coming from in the sense where I think sooner we lose our trust in the process or how the players are playing, and we get a little bit intimidated by the fact that we haven't scored yet, or the other day we haven't got any points, we haven't won yet, and it takes a strong player to ignore the boos and the shouts of forward and all that stuff on the side of the pitch, and we have to do it because I don't think we get through this period by guesswork. I think we retain what we know and the qualities that we have got, and we push on through, and I'm pretty sure we'll get there, but it's been a very difficult start for us. So those are my main thoughts this week. Only thing left to do is just to remind you that this year I am being sponsored by myself. How wonderfully creative. So if you like t-shirts and you like comedy and niche things, you can get all that stuff from quiteokcomedy.com. Also, as a viewer of this blog, you can get a 10% discount by using the code blog10 at checkout. Thank you everybody for watching. I will see you again next week.